Hey everyone, welcome back to Hero Wars Guide. Today I wanted to spend some time to put together a preliminary guide for how to spend some of these Asgard resources that we're gathering up here with the new game mode that's gone live on Hero Wars Web. There's a lot we still don't know around how much resources we might expect to get on a weekly basis and that sort of thing, but I think we know enough to give some initial thoughts on what's the best way to spend all these things. So that's what I'm going to hope to cover for today for both the Hero Ascension in the Spire and the Branch Ascension that is applied to all heroes of each role. So I'll start with a little bit of background on just how all this works. What I'm looking at here is the Ascension Spire, looking at the path for individual heroes. I have up on the screen right now Dante, and this is showing some of the improvements that I can get, how to spend resources on them, and what isn't obvious to you as you look at the original screen here is that there are actually going to be different resource types that you need at each tier of the Ascension. So this initial screen here is calling for crystals, and then it's going to be vibrant crystals here in 2, radiant crystals in 3, and all 3 of those are just driven by the primary stat for the hero. So in Dante's case, that's going to be agility, but it could be strength or intelligence for others. And then in stage 4 of Ascension, you need insignia, which is driven by the role of the hero rather than the primary stat. So Dante's a marksman, so there'll be a composure insignia, I believe it is, for marksman. Here it's stage 4, and stage 5 is greater insignia. So again, you can't tell it just by looking at this screen, but there are actually different resource types that you're going to need along the way, and that's crucial for how to decide to level these things up for reasons I'll get into later. But for now, just know different tiers require different resources, and I'll show those. I'll click in real quick just to show all those different types. I shouldn't say really quick though, because all these Asgard screens just have ridiculous load time. But anyway, they bury it a little bit here, but you can get kind of a picture of what we might earn from these guild raids, whether they're minions or bosses. Although, can't say for now what level your guild is going to end up at, or can you kill the boss once, twice, 3 times during the raid and triple some of these resources and all that. So there are a lot of unknowns still, but these raids, whether minion or bosses, you're going to get a lot of these same rewards. Some of them are random up here, but anyway, point being, crystals here, this is for the tier 1, vibrant crystals for tier 2 of Hero Ascension, radiant crystals for 3, and then it's a little bit harder to see here, but there's 7 insignia, 1 for each role, and then 7 graders. And yeah, there's 1 eternal seed coming down here at the very end. Alright, so the core point here for how to ascend individual heroes is that you're going to want to pick one of each ability type and focus, one of each primary stat and focus on that one hero until it reaches the 2nd tier, and then you can pick a second one from that same stat. You can think of that similar to how you should be leveling up your hero artifacts, where you take one hero and level the weapon from gray to green, and then you continue to advance that hero from green to blue, but then at the same time you're developing a second hero from gray to green as well. And the reason you want to do that is just so as you're accumulating all those resources, you can continue to spend them rather than stockpiling all sorts of types that you can't actually use. So, for example, here I'm at 90. I might be able to level up my second hero for a couple of these glyphs but it's important to spend them all on one hero until you get up to the next tier of Ascension. I'll jump over into some details to show why that is. This sheet is showing you the 5 resource types I just mentioned, an example of what you might earn. Again, it's too early to say exactly what that is going to end up being, but generally speaking, in Hero Wars, you get a lot of the low tier and then a little bit less with each step that you go up. So just treat this as an example. So example amounts that you may have earned here with the total, and then the quantity that's required for a single hero to advance from one tier of Ascension to the next. So like all the nodes that we were just looking at for Dante on that first page is going to add up to this many crystal, and so on down the list. And so I've outlined here the 2 different approaches that people might want to take on this. Where at first, this one is you spread out all of those crystals evenly, and the approach I recommend, where instead you focus on one hero. And the reason for that is, if you spread these things out evenly, you're going to gather all these different resources, including some of the later ones. But if you spread them out across the board, no one hero is going to reach the end of that first level of Ascension and be able to move on to the second one, where you can use some of the vibrant crystals. Whereas, here, if you focus on, in my case, just Dante, then you spend the maximum amount of the crystal in stage 1, advance to stage 2, spend all that, etc., and then you can start to develop a second hero in the first phase. And if you look at that as what of these resources you're converting into power for your team, if you spread them evenly, you're only getting, in this example case of these earnings, you only get 6,500 of these resources converted to power is your grand total. Whereas in the focused approach, you get 18,000. So it's triple, basically, the effectiveness here. This is going to get, probably even worse if I expand some of these numbers up. I don't know exactly how all this is going to play out, but I guess a similar ratio, but the difference is even wider, where if you do this spread even approach here, everyone's still only in phase 1. You're only converting 15,000 of your 43,000 potential resources into power, where if you focus, then you get almost all of them. So I think really this is the way you're going to want to go. Pick your primary guy, go all in, get that developed up, and then refer back to whatever list you've built to prioritize these things and move on to the next, and same thing, focus on them until they're done. All right, I think that covers, so as far as which heroes to develop, there's a lot of thoughts here on maybe Nebula, maybe King Mao are going to be getting great advancements here because they're getting those specialized skill upgrades at tier 2 and tier 5, where most of the heroes aren't. But don't be fooled by that into developing those heroes if they're not. It just so happens for me that King Mao is of interest for me, but Darkstar, for example, is one of them with upgraded skills. Darkstar on my account's level 1. It would be a very bad idea for me to start developing that hero and then 6 months or a year from now, half of the other heroes have been given skills as well. Maybe Darkstar's isn't that great. You just don't want to get too split in your focus. So I think you're going to want to stick to whatever heroes you've already been building up. Those are the ones you're going to want to ascend. It's probably going to make the most sense to, like in most areas of the game, focus on your primary damage dealer and then maybe your tank. and go from there. Odds are that those are going to have two different resource types here anyway, so you can probably develop both of them at the same time. But just focus on whoever you've already developed as your primary focus. If you've made good picks there, Asgard is definitely not going to be a reason for you to change them. All right, so then I'm going to move on to talking about the branch upgrades, and I think that is actually going to be a different approach. Whereas on the hero side, I'm saying pick one and focus on it until it's maxed out. I actually think it's going to make some sense to spread those out on the branch side a little bit more. And let me pull up Excel again to show some of my reasoning for that. So on the hero side, like we talked about, there are those several different resource types, and that's the root of why I think it makes sense to focus on one at a time, is so that you're able to spend all of those resources at the same time without expending them, as well as just the general principle of a few really strong heroes are better than a broad base of kind of strong heroes, especially if it's your damage dealer and your tank that you're focusing on. But with this branch development, it's really just the same resource type the whole way up. And to summarize what I'm about to talk about here in a preview, you get a big bang for the buck early on in the progression here, and then it starts to drop off pretty considerably for what you're investing in. And odds are really good that your team is built up out of a few different combinations of these branches. There may be some that you're not interested in at all, and that's fine. But if you've got a team that's got 4 or 5 different branches in it, then I think it's going to make a little bit more sense to split those investments to some degree. You still are probably going to pick 1 or 2 that are the most important to you and give them a little bit of an edge, but I don't think it's the all or nothing sort of approach that I'm recommending for the heroes. Let me show you some of the numbers here, and we don't have to go through all of these different columns, but focusing on just this table here, you can ignore this. This is just where I'm at in my development right now, which, as you can see, is not far. But this section here is breaking down, and let me zoom in a little bit for you. I know this can be kind of small on YouTube. So yeah, here we go. Okay, so just down the rows here, you see branch. This is the level of the branch. This is how much it costs to develop just that individual level. So, for example, to advance from 1, it's just 5 of the crystal. When you want to get to level 5, when you want to advance to level 1, it costs you 5 crystal. When you get to level 5, it's 5 crystal, 1 seed, etc. And then these 2 columns are showing you the total that you have spent to get to a particular level. So here it's the same, but from level 5 to go from 0 to 5, you will have spent 25 wisdom, 1 seed. And then this is just an example here using the marksman branch, but they all follow the same general pattern. And the main point here is, the easiest way to see my point driven by data here is that this is the percent complete in terms of the rewards that you get for leveling up your branch. So for example, this is telling you that when you get a branch up to level 14, you're going to be about 11.6% done with all of the rewards that you're ever going to get, even if you develop the branch all the way up to 100%. Again, that's 11% of the benefits received. And then these 2 columns are showing you your spend to get there. So you get 11% of the maximum power for only spending 0.7% of the wisdom crystals and 1% of the eternal seeds. So you can see here in a lot of these early levels, the percentage of power is way higher than the percentage of investment, and then that's going to start to even out as you get much further down. And not until the very end, I guess, but the gap gets much closer as you go further down. So per level here, like down here, you're going up 7% of spend for only 1% more of the bonuses. So generally speaking, I think at least for the branches that give you some effectiveness, don't go all in on one and completely ignore the others. The possible exception to that I've highlighted here is that the special event here that we have for the launch of Asgard does have one task in here for focusing on one branch of the tree. Most of the time when they put something like this in, you can develop, you can apply level 1 upgrades to 20 different things and you collect the reward, but this specific task here is focusing on how high you get just any one of the branches. So, if you want to either max this out or just get far into this task, then you might take one branch up a little bit higher than the rest just during this event to max out the reward. But then I'd say you want to bring the other relevant branches, whether that's 2, 3, 4 of them, up to pretty close behind. And another reason I want to call out that task to get to 20 is I think this might be kind of hard depending on how many seeds you're actually going to get out of the boss phase of the raid, because the task rewards are giving something like 29 seeds, and then there's 1 or 2 more that are going to come out of the quest list at the bottom center here. But it'd take kind of a lot of focus, and maybe one of the rewards out of the Astral Seer to get a branch all the way up to 20. If you get 5 of them up to level 10 here, then it's going to be extremely hard for you. So think about maybe focusing one up to 20, but otherwise keep the rest pretty close. And maybe it'll make sense to show just 1 or 2 other breakpoints here. So for example, if we're talking about comparing approaches again, say marksman's your thing, you're a Kira focus and you just want to get all of the power into Kira, and say you've earned enough to do that, you've got 17,000 of these wisdom crystals and 316 seed, then you focus 100% on marksman and you get that up to 72% power. But if you look at what that cost, you could develop all 7 of the other branches to somewhere between 30 and 40% of power for that same amount of resources. So some kind of lead for the ones that are most relevant to you is good, but don't forsake all the others. Would just be my preliminary thinking on how this is going to play out. All right. If you guys are thinking about this in a different way, you see a problem with what I've outlined here, please throw it in the comments, or if there's anything you'd like to add, let me know, and let anyone else watching know as well, so we can all learn together. Thanks.